Area School Board of Directors meeting for September 14th, 2022 to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Denise, can we get a roll call, please?
Director Walper? Director Martinez?
Here.
Director Berman?
Here.
Director Johnston? Director Wheeler, Vice Chair Wheeler?
Here.
Director Shibahara?
Here.
Chair Rydell?
Here.
We have a quorum.
And Denise, was the meeting properly notified?
Yes.
All right, so on to item B, the adoption of the agenda.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the agenda as noticed.
Seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. Board of Directors reports, and we'll start down there with Director Berman.
Got a nice tour tonight from Mike Ware, looking at all the projects that have been accomplished the last several months. I remember hearing about all of them, but seeing them all, it's a lot of work. So, turf project, basketball courts, air conditioning, got a lot of work done.
All right.
I just want to take a minute and thank you guys and the district for all the support and for the nice, recognition.
Director Martinez.
Also, just want to thank Mike for the job walkthrough today, for showing us the turf. Great project. I also was attending the first football game. Great program, well attended, and seems like there was a lot of thought into the program. It sounds like everybody really enjoyed it. So. Great success. Thank you for
I just want to recognize the school district and getting this year off and rolling. I know my kids, I got two at middle school, one at Clackamas River this year. Everybody's enjoying it. It seems like since I've been on the school board, and there's no coincidence here, that it seems like every year we do this, it gets better and better. I remember the first year I was on here, it was a little chaotic and there was a lot of loose ends and transportation issues and all these other things, and every year we kind of refine the process. And I'm by no means taking credit for this, but it just seems like there's a going trend here that we are getting better at what we're doing. And that was with a big transportation change at the junior high or middle school and the high school. So nice job, everybody. Went to the first football game there. Very well attended. It was a neat event. Thanks for the recognition for the board. Superintendent Carpenter on that. And I heard numerous people complimenting the district and you at the whole presentation.
Yeah, echo the start of the year. It's always exciting, so it's great to be there. Second favorite day of the school year as a school board member is the first day of elementary school with all the new shoes and backpacks. That's always fun. Number one day is graduation day, so great start to the year, a lot of excitement, and again, it just gets better and better. I too had several comments on the program halftime at the football game, and several comments about Superintendent Carpenter, how engaged he was with the group, and talking to folks that were there, and just working the crowd and being present. So we appreciate that, and it was definitely noticed by people in our community and people outside of our community, and so that was well done, so thank you for that. Yeah, fall sports is underway, which we all know, so I won't bother with that. Last meeting, I talked about the high school musical that was coming up, Mary Poppins, which I believe is in January, and the cast just came out, so they just announced all the cast on that, so excited about that. And there's I shouldn't say the number, but upwards of 60 students, I believe, in the musical theater class this year, which is a monster number. So, so don't quote me on that number. Sorry if I'm off, but I think it's pretty close to that. So, yeah, I could echo everything else, but I won't. We're going to move on. So, all right. So let's move on to item D, district reports. We'll start with communications. Come on down, Maggie.
Great to be here this evening. September is always a whirlwind of events since we've seen you last, so I'm excited to talk about what the communications department has been working on over the past month. So first, some of our projects in progress right now that we have up and coming. Our district video series, it's been on a little bit of a pause over the summer to give families a little bit of a break, but we're excited to bring some of those back, including our finance video, some standards-based learning and grading videos, some support for families on how they can check their child's progress in Power School, and some supports like that. We'll also be collaborating with the operations department on a video where we'll be interviewing some student athletes, some youth athletes, and just some students from around the district on how some of the updates, including the turf project, has impacted their learning experience. We did a video several months before we completed the turf project and talked about the meaning of that, so we want to follow back up with some of those students and get student voice on how that's impacted them, so we're excited about that. We're also working on a community mailer. This will be a several-page mailer like we've done in the past, just talking about how the school year is going so far, how our facilities are doing, how our finances are doing, and providing an update to the entire community. We sent out about 6,000 postcards to invite our community to our stadium opening. We got a really great response from that. And we had over 494, last time I checked, people that actually scanned the code to either purchase tickets to the game or just learn a little bit more about the project. So that's exciting to know that that many people are actually interacting and learning more about the district just from something that they found in their mailbox. So it's exciting when we got calls from people that haven't heard from the district or haven't visited the district in a while that came to our first game. And that's what that's all about, is bringing in some of those community members that we might not talk with otherwise. We're also coming down the home stretch of our website launch. We wanted to launch at an intentional time, not around the flurry of the start of the year, just to get our building secretaries and many of the people that will be collaborating on the website time to really onboard appropriately and make sure they're feeling comfortable with the new website. So we're expecting the new website to launch sometime in mid-October. So hopefully around next board meeting, we'll be able to give you guys a look at what the new website looks at. But we're still very excited about it so far. We're also looking to expand some of what we use Parent Square for. It's been going so well. I think last time I shared, our utilization is up over 30%, so this clearly is a popular tool to communicate with our families. We're looking into some options of streamlining and maybe taking away a couple of the other apps that parents have downloaded on their phone and moving over to Parent Square. Also making it more accessible for our classroom teachers through just a lot of training and support. And additionally, Parent Square has rolled out some community options where community members can sign up to get alerts about different things. If it's a sports update, they can sign up for those. A finance update, we can kind of segment our communications. And so we want to roll that out to the broader community again to reach those people that aren't interacting with our schools on a daily basis. So we're excited to use what's already a pretty powerful tool in an even more powerful way. And then some of our completed projects that have happened over the last month, obviously our back-to-school communication. I have to echo Vice Chair Wheeler. The beginning of the year is smoother than we've seen some past years. I think we've worked through some hiccups, and that was evident in the first few days of school. So we're always excited about that. Coming up will be our first read days, so we're still working through some of the communication on that. We're really working on making accessible our Friday meal order deliveries and sending that out to families so they know how they can order meals on Friday that will come along a bus route. And then also we completed our district calendar distribution. That was a popular one with our community and parents. We've sent that out to staff and most of our parents, and we'll be expanding that to key community members. Again, Orchid Health partnered with us on this to help reduce the cost and enable us to expand that to the community as well, so community members will know some of our key events. So we've been excited about that. Our stadium reopening, of course, I already talked about it a little bit, but just communicating that to the community, and Josh has done a tremendous job of just updating our scoreboard and everything that goes into this process, and we're working on training backups so that we can ensure that we can always provide the level of service and the level of event that we aspire to for every single event. So that has been a great process. And then lastly, we have completed and are working on creating more district promotional videos. We have a 30-second and 1-minute video that talks about the Estacada School District. You'll see it on the scoreboard before games, and we are also getting it into the Sandy Cinema and just some other places around the Estacada area and community. Let's talk a little bit more about Estacada and why it's a premier place to learn. Any questions? Thank you.
No? Thanks, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Okay, next up, building and facilities. Come on up, Mike.
All right, good evening. I'd like to start off, just to recap our Buzz Randall Stadium Improvement Project. I wanted to also thank the Board of Directors for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this project. I worked alongside some amazing people, and if you were to tell me in April of this year when it was snowing that we would make our mark, I would probably tell you, no, we didn't. Well, we won't do that. But we were able to make our mark, and on August 27th, we finished this project 2 days in advance for our soccer game. The project lasted about 8 months total from the day or the month that the Board of Directors approved us moving forward, the district moving forward. We moved about 1,000 dump trucks of dirt, which is about 12,000 cubic yards of dirt. Over 1,000 linear feet of conduit and water pipe was installed. 480,000 pounds of rubber and sand was installed in the turf. Over 3,000 linear feet of concrete and over 5,000 tons of rock. While the project was over 8 months, it only took 12 days to install the turf, which we were very excited and allowed us to make our mark. So now we are celebrating a brand new turf stadium at the district. We have our students each day using this area, our youth football, our community, our athletics department using this facility to the most capacity. And so we're very excited for this project, and again, very happy that it's done, and now we're enjoying it. Couple capital improvement projects I wanted to go into. Our North Complex concession and parking. If you recall, we went out for RFP for the parking and driveway project. We were not successful in getting any bidders. We do now have an interested party or contractor to submit a bid, so we're reopening that RFP to allow that to happen, and still seeing if we can procure other contractors to start this project. We do anticipate it being in a phased setting so that we can probably start the rock portion, foundation, and then go into the paving and the parking. We're working with our athletics department to look at starting a hitting facility project over there by our softball field to support our softball program. That's really in its infant stage. Not a lot to report other than we're just starting the procurement and investigation on what needs to be done in terms of engineering, utilities, and placement. I'm working with Director Berman as well as Ryan Carpenter and a local community member on an LED lighting project. We are hopeful that we'll have a donation from a community member on installing and upgrading our lighting at River Mill, which will be an increase or an efficiency improvement for our buildings. Again, still early in the phase of this project, still working out some details. Hopefully have more information to be able to report to the board next month. And then finally, our River Mill seismic upgrade project. As we've gone through and evaluated this project with our engineer group, WRK, there are 3 options that the district has been given. And option 1 is a complete re-roof with that structural upgrade for seismic. As you see, that puts us over the grant budget of $1.1 million. Option 2 is a patch and repair, and that puts us over the other roof along with the structural improvements, and that puts the district over just under $395,000. Option 3 is focusing on all the work at the bottom, which gives us a surplus of about $568,000. At this time, we're moving that towards that direction, and we have a meeting with Christina Irish, myself, and our stakeholder group. We'll be meeting with WRK to discuss what could we use that surplus money for. Can we upgrade windows? Unfortunately, we cannot do AC, I already asked, but can we do lighting? Is there power distribution? Anything that can apply under the grant that we're going to explore. And so that's our next step, to really look at that, nail down some conceptual ideas, and then start moving forward. To highlight a little bit of the start of the school year, our IT department submitted from the last board meeting received over 1,000 work tickets or help desk tickets, completed 787 of them. Average response time is 3.3 hours, and average resolution time is 1.5 days. And that's on 3 individuals. We just hired a 4th tech to replace one tech that had moved out. And so them working efficiently, utilizing this system, this is our help desk ticket system, to be efficient, getting out there, supporting our students, our staff, to make sure we're ready for the start of the school year. So huge win for them. Work orders, we submitted 280 since the last month, completed 225. The majority have been general maintenance, but we've done some ADA, some health and safety, and some high emergency needs over the last month. We served over 5,000 meals in the first 2 weeks of school, and we've driven over 6,000 miles just now in the first 2 weeks of school. And that was from the last week. So data's a little old, but again, we're out there serving our community and serving our students to the best of our ability. And in my last minute here, I wanted to highlight another win. The district was awarded $199,900 in emergency connectivity grant. That allows us to purchase 146 iPads, 50 staff additional devices, and 360 Chromebooks. The district is required to part of this project through this connectivity grant to support this through $23,300. But the big ticket item is that the district allocated, if you recall, $160,000 for a replacement plan. Now we're able to repurpose that money into the classroom, into other resources because of this grant. So a huge win from our IT department and our IT director, Christy Chesser. So. Any questions?
Questions for Mike? I'm sure you got one.
I got a question with regards to the Chromebooks from last year. The only reason I ask is my middle school kid never turned his in, and I don't ever recall getting an email or anything chasing it down. And so I was just wondering, like, how many of those situations there are, or if they saw his name and there's didn't get him the first day of school. So,
your punishment was to do a turf field.
Yeah. Work with me for 8 months. That was your punishment. So students who didn't bring back their Chromebook, we locked down the computer, and they brought it back to the school for the school year. We had to unlock it, if you will. There was a high number of that, and so we had to work through some of those bottlenecks for students who didn't return their Chromebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to say again, a lot of talk around grants, and I know that's a big part that you and your group does that doesn't get a lot of notoriety, but there's a lot of money that this district earns based on the hard work of you and other members within this district that allows us to do things that we wouldn't be able to do. So kudos to you guys and everybody involved. We appreciate it.
Cascade that to the team. Thank you.
Yep.
One more question going back to the seismic grant on River Mill. So the 3 options there, when do you really start getting into the nitty gritty and figuring out which route we're going? I mean, I know you said you had a meeting coming up.
Yeah.
But at what point does the rubber meet the road and we say, okay, we're going forward with this?
That's a good question. I plan to find out on Friday when we meet, and I can report back to the board on what that timeline looks like. Because our anticipation to start some of this work would be in spring break of this school year, so that we can get some preliminary work done, start the day summer break starts, so we can be ready for the new school year. So I will be able to report that back to the board next month.
And the last question, and maybe it's something that'll come out of that meeting. What is the useful life of the roof in its current state?
If I recall, when we did the assessment, we have about 7 years left on that roof system.
And so, looking at option 1, if we paid an additional $1.1 million, we'd have to come up with.
Correct.
We'd have a new roof.
Yes.
That has a lifespan of maybe 4 more years.
No, we'd have a new roof that would have a lifespan of a normal new roof.
No. I'm saying that in lieu of the
correct.
roof, if we leave it untouched, it's maybe got 4 more years and we have to look at it.
Correct.
In 4 years.
That's correct.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and next up is the finance report, but I don't believe Director Irish is here, so you will take that, Superintendent Carpenter.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hello to the Finance Department, who is out at professional training right now, so they can continue to improve our financial transparency and responsibilities. So taking a look at our financial reports, and I'll try to breeze through this quickly. Mike, I still may need you to be our clicker. But looking also in your board packet, you will notice that our month to date, we've received $2.2 million this month. Year to date, we've brought in $6.6 million, and we're projected to be at $40.3 million for our working budget for this year. This month, we've spent $1.99 million this month, and our year to date, we have spent $3.2 million. And we've encumbered $21.8 million, and it's important to remember that September, this is our first round of payroll for the start of the school year, so it's going to appear lower now, but as we put everything into the system, those encumbereds will grow significantly as we get everybody into our system. Next slide. You'll notice the pie chart there that 66% of our funding is from the state. 19% is from local property tax, and our beginning fund balance was $5.4 million, or roughly 13%. So we're in a pretty healthy state, and I think it's always important for the public to see just how little, when it comes to 19%, the local tax dollars come into our coffers. For the most part, 66% comes from the state. Next slide, Mike. So taking a deeper look at our spots here, our fiscal year general fund, we are projected last year, 21-22, we projected a $6.35 million end fund balance. We spent down that $390,000. With this upcoming adopted budget, we're expected to end our end fund balance at $4.059 million, and that's a spending down of our end fund balance of 1.3. It's important to remember that this is due to our approved labor contracts. We did cost of living and some retention work with our administrative group, our teachers, certified teachers, as well as our contracted and classified folks. We also increased our sub rates, which you guys will be a part of tonight in the approval of that. Increased library instructional assistance, and so just some examples, added some teachers, and so that's where we're at as we start kind of spending down our ending fund balance.
And is that, what percentage is that? Are we at like?
It's going to be around 12% when it's all said and done, so we're still in pretty good shape. Yep, with that. Looking at the bar graphs there, we do this one primarily for Director Walper, so I'll just kind of move through this, but you can see our budgeted, our year-to-date encumbered, and that will grow again once everyone's in our payroll system, and so you can see where we're at here. Again, general fund, I'm just going to kind of move through this one pretty quickly. No big differences is what I'm supposed to tell you, and so I think if you've had the opportunity to kind of review this at a glance, there's nothing that is noteworthy in terms of any significant changes. Our purchase services have increased just a little bit. We are adding an additional $100,000 to our contracted service for a speech language pathologist. We're really struggling to find a qualified hiring pool for that, and so we are again contracting our services to a third party on that, and so you can kind of see the breakdown there. Moving forward, this is kind of, I think, our final financial one, but a very important one as we close up the turf field project, as well as some of the other projects around the turf field. So here's an up-to-date look at our capital projects. This is this year's budget. So thus far, we've brought in $89,000 on interest on our investment, as well as the $87,000, which is insurance money for the flooded 4 stadium classrooms. So we applied that money into this account. We've also, year-to-date, we expect to bring in this year, we expect to bring in $500,000 for the construction excise tax. That's the primary facilitator that funds this account. We expect to have about $12,000 from our investment, which is the interest, the $87,000 from insurance. We are transferring or have transferred $275,000 into that. And so we believe that our beginning fund balance as we started this year is about $1.5 million. That will change a little bit after our audit. We think that it'll be a little bit more closer to 1.7 million when it's all said and done. That being said, though, we have spent $303,000 of that money already this year through the turf project, and we have $874,000 of bills we already have or bills we're expected to get as a part of that project as well. So at the end of the day, we project by the end of this school year, but primarily the end of the turf field project, to have $874,000 in this capital account for us to utilize as accordingly. Questions on that one? Okay.
Good.
I was asking Chair Idell, the dollars we get from Summit, where are those being put these days?
All over the place, primarily in our CTE programs, our librarians, and so it really goes into the general fund, and it's what we're using to help offset some of our adult supports here, but mainly in CTE.
And as far as the actual dollars and cents of that, is it holding pretty steady now that things have kind of evened out with COVID and the enrollments are stabilizing, I guess?
Yeah, it's been for the last 3 years pretty consistently around $2 million profit for us that we've utilized in these areas. We have taken some of that money and put it into capital projects. The last 2 or 3 budgets, we've been able to put about between $500,000 and $750,000 a year in that. But as we spend down, as I showed you in, I think, the second slide, as we start spending down now our end fund balance, this is more being packed into the general fund until a new biennium comes out. Great question. Okay. Then moving on to the final 2 slides, which is our enrollment report. Very excited to share with the Board of Directors the growth occurring inside the Estacada School District. Clackamas River Elementary School is at 452 students as of August 31st. That's 36 kids more than June when school ended, and 51 kids more than the start of the school year last year. River Mill Elementary School is at 491 kids, which is very high. 52 kids more than last June, 76 kids more than what we started with last year. Estacada Middle School is at 436 kids, 35 more than last June, 36 kids more than we started. And Estacada High School is at 533, 45 more kids than last June, and 16 more kids than we started with last year. So the Estacada School District is the largest it's been in my 13 years here at 1,912 kids. That's 168 more kids than last June and 179 more kids than the start of the school year last year. And so this number will change a little bit as of October, I think it's 7th. Which is our legal time where kids who haven't shown up, we're required to drop them off of our roll. So that will fluctuate a little bit, although we've been keeping very close track of that, obviously for growth and employment reasons, and it's not going to drop considerably when it comes to that. So we are booming, and this is an 8% enrollment increase year over year. And if you look at the charter school, you will notice that they're down 142 kids. 35 kids from start of the year to start of the year, so they're at 1,100 kids fully inhabiting our Eagle Creek Elementary School area, which is what is bringing in, as Chair Wheeler or Vice Chair Wheeler asked, and that is the $2 million of revenue that we get for their occupation of Eagle Creek Elementary School, and so that's a good thing also, and they've been a great partner. So looking at our favorite chart that that this board has asked us to continue looking at year over year, and it's starting to bear fruit for us. But you can see that 21-22 is kind of an orangish color right in the middle. And you can see with excitement and enthusiasm where the year 22-23 is starting. So that's an indicator that not only is it neat that families are moving into our community, but it's equally as special that they're choosing to send their children to the Estacada School District. And we're honored to be able to offer great service to our families. That's the business report.
So one question on enrollment
Yep.
For kindergarten. So did we end up adding another teacher there, or were we already staffed?
We added an additional kindergarten teacher to River Mill Elementary School.
Okay.
So where you see that fourth 23 at the bottom, River Mill D, that's the additional teacher we added there.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Yep.
And then as far as our pre-K programs in either one of those elementaries, are those are not included in these numbers, correct?
They do not include in those numbers because the state does not pay us for those kids. We're also paying for that whole entire service out of our general education fund pocket without any compensation whatsoever from it. And we have 2 programs now. They are both full with waiting lists.
And what's the enrollment on those? What is full?
We cap it at 25, I believe. So we've got roughly 50 kids, 1 at Clackamas River and 1 at River Mill.
Is that part of the, not Measure 98, but the cat tax dollars? Is that what was going to fund some of that pre-K stuff?
Nope. Yeah, nope.
So that's just entirely on Estacada School District?
It's on Estacada. There is a preschool promise grant that is out there to help fund this. We felt like the requirements from the state did not align with the values of the Estacada School District, and they wanted to have a more intensive control of the curriculum being taught, and we wanted to make sure that the curriculum was aligned with the values of our community. And so we're continuing to kind of do it from a local perspective, but that also means that we're doing it at our cost.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks Superintendent Carpenter, and, oh, you did, sorry, I didn't look back.
No, you looked away before I had my question. Sorry, everybody, for having all these questions. I'm going to drag this meeting out. The 2 new portables at River Mill,
Yes.
are those up and operational?
Yes, sir. That's right now currently housing our adult transitions program, students 18 to 21, and it's housing our pre-K program. So 3 of the 4 buildings are occupied. 3 of the 4 classrooms are occupied.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
Thanks, Chair. No, I'm good for now.
All right, so we're gonna kick it back to you for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, and I'll try to abbreviate this a little bit, although there is a lot of things I'd like to share both with the Executive Board of Directors and the public watching this evening. But back to school is underway, as you've heard throughout the community. We are very proud of our smooth start and our ability to serve our kids open. Our doors are open this September, which was not the case last September, where we were more in a hybrid-ish model. And so happy to be able to serve our families as they come back. We are fully staffed, which is uncommon in the school districts around us right now. I'm also excited to share that our medical benefits, our Executive Board of Directors and I and our Human Resources team worked hard in negotiations with our teachers' unions and classified unions last spring. And the medical benefits package allows 100% of our employees this year to have no out-of-pocket medical expense. And that's another great thing for us to be able to offer to recruit and retain our employees. And so I'm very pleased with that and excited to share that with you as well. I had just a great time touring River Mill Elementary School today. I had the chance to watch and walk into 5 different classrooms and just got to see some incredible things. Our employees are working very hard to build relationships, to close gaps, and to get learning moving in a forward progression. And I'm very excited of what I saw today. Our bus routes are getting tighter on times, and we are proactively working with each family as we encounter individual problems. We are not perfect by any means, and our start to the school year has had some bumps. And I just wanted to communicate that we are working individually with each family as we encounter those bumps, and I've been thankful to be able to work in a collaborative process through that. I too was very pleased with our turf field opening ceremony. I want to thank our board of directors for being present and representing the community out there for that halftime presentation. I'm just so proud of the work that we've done together. I think this is a legacy that we can leave to generations of our families and our kids throughout the process. A fun statistic is that this turf field on September 14th has already been used more than it has been used collectively in the last 3 years combined. And that's impressive when you talk about practice, JV games, varsity games, middle school PE, and other youth factors. We've already exceeded the use capacity that we used to. So I would argue it's already paying for itself, and I'm very proud of that. This was truly a community win, not just a school district win. Some of my favorite conversations that I had this summer and early fall were from old people who were coming down to the stadium to reminisce about the way things used to be and just to share their pleasure with how great it looked and how proud they were of this project. And so one of my favorite memories of this project will be the alumni who came down to cheer us on in that process, and that was very, very cool. It was a community win. I do need to point out to the Estacada Executive Board of Directors as well as the community that it does appear the Oregon Department of Education is going to be changing graduation rates statewide. This is going to be a very controversial issue for a couple of reasons. The first is we're changing the requirements to be less strenuous, and that's going to have its own criticism throughout the community and the state. But it's also a very heated governor's election right now, and I believe that graduation rates is going to be a key debate topic in terms of that governor's race. And so as a elected representative of a public school entity, I do want to prepare you that schools, public schooling, is going to be a front factor of this governor campaign, and we probably need to brace ourselves for that. But secondly, I want to just communicate to the board and to our local community that standards-based grading is our rigor control that is different from other school districts. And so while you still need 24 credits to graduate to earn an Oregon diploma, it's our standards-based grading that is our insurance policy that we can prove kid by kid, standard by standard, that they truly have mastered the essential learning targets combined with the Common Core state standards. And so that's something that we're in a good position to be able to share with our community that while it may appear graduation standards are truly declining, that it's our own local policies that still allow for a rigorous educational opportunity while still being in compliance with the state graduation guidelines. There are two board events that are coming up in the month of October aside from the regular October board meeting that I'd like to get on your calendar. The first, and I'm going to have to ask our executive assistant Denise to help with me with this date, but we do have a board workshop scheduled for October 5th. And on October 5th is when we plan to be here for an open workshop to the public where we're going to discuss our facilities, the future of our facilities, take a look at another analysis and deep dive into our prior bond attempt during the pandemic and wildfire and presidential election. And so going to be important for us to rekindle that conversation and see where our community is at. So I very much look forward to October 5th and our work together on that. The second date that we'll send a calendar invite to, but I definitely want on your radar, is October 19th. So our school board members have 4 major responsibilities, one of which is to set the mission, vision, and values of the school district through its strategic plan. I'd like to invite our executive board of directors to join me as we tour our classrooms, K through 12, and take a look and a deep dive so that you can see the mission, vision, and values alive and well inside each and every one of our classrooms, regardless of if it's kindergarten, 11th grade, 12th grade. I'm excited to take you back into our schools. We used to do this regularly, pre-pandemic, but our schools have been closed to outside visitors, including the public, for the last 2 years. And so over the course of this year, I'm very excited to welcome our community back into our classrooms so that they can see just what our students are learning and what our teachers are doing. I think one of the consequences of schools being closed the last 2 years is people have been able to make up what they think is happening inside schools, and we haven't been able to say, come see it for yourself. And so I'm very excited to invite our community, especially those who have mounted very strong opinions about what they think is happening inside our school district, and I can't wait to welcome them so they can see the good work that's happening inside our schools. So that's it, other than to say I am pleased to see the improvements that continue to happen in the school board room as well. We try to chip away at this space, this public meeting space, each and every single year. As we take this, the board of directors and I, your superintendent, as we take holding ourselves accountable seriously, we want to make sure that we're conducting the public's business in a public meeting with a best-in-class experience. And so people who do come to watch, either virtually or in person, their elected officials and their oversight of their school district, we want to make sure that we're doing that in a first-class manner, and we're going to continue to chip away at that so that our community can see with their own eyes that we truly are trying to become a premier school district in the state of Oregon. So that's your superintendent's report.
I have 2 questions. So, student tracking on buses, are we rolling live again, or I think we had a conversation about that, so where are we at on that?
Yeah, so we are just getting started in full on rolling live on that. It was our intention to do that at the beginning of the school year. We had some different priorities to make sure that we were picking kids up on time and just getting kids here on time, and the new bus route drop off for the secondary. Now that that dust has begun to settle, we're going to ensure that all kids have their bus passes and we're swiping kids on and off. And that's twofold. It's great service to our families so they can see where their child's bus is and when they can go and pick them up at their stop. And secondly, for safety reasons. And so if in the event of a bus emergency, we know exactly who is on that bus in real time, which we haven't been able to do in the past.
Awesome. And then just to revisit the graduation requirements, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is similar to the conversation we had when the state testing requirements were dropped, right? So that, just because that from a state level is changing, it doesn't change what we're doing in the schools and how we do the standards-based grading to make sure that we're moving in the right direction.
That's correct, Chair Idell, and your question is spot on. So before the pandemic, if a child did not pass the nationally normed SBAC test, Smarter Balance test, then they were required to their 12th grade year to do some type of work sample to demonstrate that grade level work. During the pandemic, the state of Oregon waived that, and so if a kid did not pass the test, they didn't have to pass anything in addition to in order to graduate. And it does appear that the state of Oregon is going to attempt to make that rule permanent. And so that's the biggest one. And so that's where, for us, because we do standards-based grading, we can guarantee grade level work really from kindergarten onward. And so even when the law was in effect, we were able to lean on our standards-based grading policies as evidence that kids had in fact demonstrated that extra additional work for those kids that failed that service.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Questions for Ryan? Welcome back one more time. No, you're good? Okay. Gotta give you credit.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Item F, reports and presentations, we have none. Item G, discussion item, so PG land easement, so Superintendent Carper will kick it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. The Portland General Electric Company would like to have an easement to the Estacada School District's property to do routine and regular fixes on things that belong to or owned by PGE. I think this is very common in a lot of different places, but either we've never had an easement with them or they're just trying to clean some things up from an office end on their part. The reason why I bring up this discussion is twofold. One, anything that deals with our property requires school board approval. You are the overseers of the taxpayers' property. And so we can't do anything with the property without your approval. And so it is our intention at some point to bring this to the board to approve this. However, when we had this easement contract presented to us, we obviously took this to our attorneys, and our attorneys had concerns about liability, as well as one other one that I had mentioned, I can't remember, primarily liability. Oh, and if we want them to not come on our property anymore, what is an out clause for us? And so we're going to work with our attorney and representatives from PGE to make sure that there's a contract that we all feel comfortable with, and then we'll bring it back to the board. So I just wanted to share that with you in terms of where we're at with that.
Awesome. Questions on that?
Is this in reference to a specific item? I know we had talked about it previously, but what, is it everywhere on school property? Because your personal house, everything that has a PGE line on it, they have a easement overlay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, that's.
Yeah, just to the meter base and out, yeah.
Yeah, so everything up to where their stuff stops. So I don't think, from what I'm gathering, this isn't anything abnormal.
No, and you're right. This is primarily for the Estacada School District property. They do have some specifics for 355 Northeast 6, which is our high school. And I imagine they do have some things there. They do point out that their intention is to put some underground wire and replacing some transformers that are on our property. And so I do think they plan to do some upgrading as well.
And I don't think that's too far out of the ordinary either, as far as.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to clean things up. I think, Joe, you alluded to that earlier.
Right, yeah, it's normal business.
Yep.
Good idea to get it looked at.
Sure. We just want to make sure if someone falls out of a bucket truck that we're not the ones liable for
Well,
it.
and we should be able to be in the conversation of what time and day and what day of the week, right?
That's
So that
true,
we're
too.
not having line trucks show up in the middle of recess at Rivermill.
Correct.
That could be a problem as well, so I think that's probably where the attorney's
Yes.
coming from as well, as
Good
far as
point.
access or restricting access when
When?
needed.
Yep.
If not, you can ask him about it, please.
That's the discussion item.
Cool,
Yep.
great. Any other questions, comments? All right, on to item H, hearing of citizens for action items only. None signed up. On to item I. The consent agenda includes a package of one or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of one or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for a separate vote. So on to item 1, the consent agenda.
Right now, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Everybody's had a chance to look at it? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
On to item J, approval of expense.
I need my notes. Chair Rydell, I move to authorize the Estacada School District to pay plat excavation $69,102.50 towards excavation services for the artificial turf project at Buzz Randall Stadium.
It has been moved. And you'll second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm sure there's some discussion here. So who wants to kick off the discussion? You want me to do it?
Mike, you want to jump in?
I'm here to answer any questions.
So I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I know Jeremiah did a significant amount of work. I'm assuming this is nowhere near what we probably should have been charged for this effort. This was covering some other direct costs like fuel and hauling. I'm making an assumption here and looking for confirmation.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
That's what I wanted to put out.
Yep.
So he did a lot of volunteering and we all appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Majority of his services was volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a large sum of dollars, but it's dollars that were gonna be spent on the turf project regardless. And if it was a normal contractor situation, it probably would have been the tune of $350,000, $400,000 worth of work. And so, what he's asked me to relay, because we worked hand in hand on this, was none of his time, none of his dad's time was ever charged. And any of the equipment that just was sitting there for the rainy periods or the times where there was a lull wasn't being charged. It was just purely to recoup the diesel expenses and working time for those vehicles on site, as well as the 2 employees that he had to work intermittently, so. If there's any questions, I can answer any more.
Huge savings, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean,
absolutely.
again, covering some of the hard costs.
Sure.
So-
And really, in essence, this is more of a reimbursement than it is anything else. But the reason why the board has to vote on it is it's reached the $50,000 level. And so that's why we have to bring it to the board by law.
I'll spend 69 to get 300.
Yeah,
That's basically what it is, so.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, both of you guys. Any other questions before he goes too far away? I think we're good. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item K, for Career Staff Unlimited.
Chair Ideli, I move to authorize the Estacada School District to spend over $50,000 for Carefree Staff Unlimited for speech services at Estacada High School and Summit Learning Charter.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded, and I think we want to kick it to Superintendent Carpenter here to give us a little more information.
Sure. I don't particularly love the language of the authorization, but I also want, so since the language is what it is, I probably need to say that we expect this to be $108,000 specifically. And this is for that speech language pathologist, third-party service that I was telling you about earlier, because of our inability to find that pathologist. And so in the future, we'll do a better job of wording the action item, but I promise this will not be $1 million. This will be $108,000, but it could move here or there based on the services needed.
And to that point, I think it's important, the reason that it is 50 is because anything over 50, we have to approve, right?
That's
So it's not-
correct.
There's no intention of putting anything under there other than we need to approve it over 50.
That's correct.
So I appreciate you clarifying it. It is for a very specific job functionality that we need within the district, and this is how we're going to fulfill that.
But that language is on me.
Okay.
We'll get better at that.
And we're sharing these services with Summit?
Correct. Yep. And we'll bill them for that too. They're paying half. Yep.
Awesome. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item L, subpay rates.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the self-pay rates for 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We do this every year, so it is something that we need to do. I know that there's a lot of conversation in the local area within the county, so that we're all trying to work together on that. Is there anything in particular that's different this year?
There is just a little bit, so it's important to always remember that the state ultimately sets the daily substitution rate. There is a law in place that when a substitutes for 7 days or more, they increase to a state-determined additional rate. So what we're asking you to do today ultimately is to approve the additional rate as our daily rate. And our attempt is to, as you alluded to, Chair Rydell, we're really struggling to find substitutes in the classroom. We already have a few substitutes that have gone unfilled early on in the school year already. And so as we compete, unfortunately, we do compete with other school districts from local communities for substitutes. Our intent this year is to up that just a little bit, hoping that that might be a financial incentive for someone from Clackamas or Gladstone to choose to drive out to here too. It is possible that if we're striking out there, I may come back to the board with the idea of potentially reimbursing mileage as a different incentive to get people to come from outside our community to come here as well. But we'll just go one step at a time here. We're trying to be preventative though.
Yeah.
Or whatever the word is, innovative. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Sub-pay rates? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
On to item M, for services contract with ESS West LLC.
Chair Rydell, I move to authorize spending over $50,000 for professional services contract with ESS West LLC to provide substitutes for teachers, paraeducators, cooks, and custodians for up to a maximum amount of $500,000 for the 2022-23 school year.
It's been moved and seconded, and this is not our first year connecting with these folks, and so I think, again, just to make sure that I'm on the same page, right, this is, we are contracting with them, we're not paying them the money, we're paying the substitutes the money, and that's what we anticipated, will, not to exceed a $500,000 for the whole year based on 7 needs, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
So these rates tie into this contract?
Correct. Yep. Yep. And we typically fall between $280,000 and $320,000 is our usual what we spend on substitute costs. So I think this is a good buffer on both sides. But we're hoping that with the new school calendar and some of the things that we've done, we're going to reduce that. But ESS is ultimately the company that we hire to do the administrative work and do the substitute stuff for us.
If I recall, there was also some savings from a salary expense or benefits expense?
That's correct.
Or PERS expense or
Yeah,
something to that
all
effect?
payroll costs and everything, ESS ultimately pays for,
Okay.
not us. And
So we
so
don't
we
pay the
do
workers'
save
comp
money
then?
by going through that. No workers' comp, yeah, none of
Right.
it.
So
Yep.
it's actually sizable savings depending on how much we're
Correct.
spending.
Yep,
So, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I thought I remembered that.
yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Good to go? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
On to item N, hearing of citizens for non-action items.
None.
We have none. With that, we will call the meeting to a close. Thanks for being here, everybody, in person and online. Have a great night.